right, welcome to Wholesaling the Cool Way. I'm Jasper Cool here with my dad, Mark Cool. And on this podcast, we share our real world insights, tools, and strategies to help you succeed in your real estate investing business. So you'll get our perspectives from both of our respective businesses each week. And we cover wholesaling, wholesaling houses, wholesaling vacant land, building businesses, hiring VAs, managing VAs, stuff like that, and more. So typically we like to kick things off with inspiration and education. So do you have anything that you want to share that's been sparking your growth this week?
Uh, this week for real estate and business, mostly I've been focusing in on building my personal brand, which is not necessarily a real estate oriented thing. But shout out to Dan Coe because he gives a lot of stuff away for free, and I've been watching his content. Uh, it's Dan Koe, and then Alex Hormozy. I always watch something of his every week or listen to something of his, but I can't remember any specifics. But I would always shout him out for business stuff. Um, yeah, and I'm still finishing or on the tail end of the Big Leap, which I've checked in about the last podcast or two. Just really recommend that one to anybody who's just like looking to break through the sort of glass ceiling over your head of your own personal limitations around what's possible. I feel like I've been
Mm-hmm.
dancing with that in my own business because we've been after doubling in growth the first couple of years, in revenue and everything. The last couple of years has just been like sort of a smaller profit margin, and that feels like an upper limit issue for me, which is the core concept of Big Leap. Is we all have upper limit problems. We all have ways that we limit ourselves based on our core beliefs about ourselves. So like it's on me to really dig into that and figure out, obviously you do the nuts and bolts stuff in the real world, like generate more leads and get more contracts and close more deals. But then sometimes if you can work the other side of it and figure out what inside of me might be causing me to not believe I can do that or not see the solution that's right there in front of me, it could be because I've been limiting myself internally. So anyway, I recommend that. It's the Big Leap. It's on audiobook. Gay Hendricks is the author, or it's on you can buy a hard copy. I've got both. I
Mm-hmm.
like both, and he narrates the book, and he's a great narrator, so I like that. A lot of cool stories in there about people he's worked with. Like he doesn't just talk about uh, a a concept. He illustrates it through stories of people who have come up against their upper limit and then broken through, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But like the funny one in there is the billionaire who did I share this one who got mad at his wife for buying the expensive brand of toilet paper? We talk. Do you remember
Yeah.
this? The Big
Yeah.
Leap, yeah. And he's like he would get on his wife about buying an expensive brand of toilet paper, and he's a billionaire, and and so then Gay Hendricks is working with him as a client, and he's like, dude, like what percentage of your net worth, if she bought like 1,000 rolls of toilet paper a day for the rest of your lives, how much money would that be? And it was like whatever. He did the calculation, and then he's like, okay, what's the fluctuation on your stock holdings every day? And it was like way 10x more than that would be, every day in his stock holdings. So then he's like, well,
Yeah.
what's this really about? And it was really about the guy's parents, and they always fought over money. And so he felt like he could either have lots of money or happiness in his relationship, but he couldn't have both. That was what he internalized from his parents. And so then the upper limit problem was that. And then he had to go, oh, I just have to, I have to overcome that belief. And so the Gay Hendricks, the author, challenged him because he's a competitive guy. I was like, I bet you can't go without criticizing your wife for a week. And the guy goes, I'll take that challenge, or maybe he said a
Yeah.
day. He said a day, and then the guy came back in a week and was like, I went a whole week. And then, but he saw the benefit. And then, so that's just one example. That's really uh, good stuff. So that's what I've got.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. I love
Yeah.
that book too. I'm definitely due to reread that. I haven't read it yet this year, so I like to read that at least once a year, if not more often.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. What do you
Um,
have?
for me, it was all Hormozy all week, pretty much. And
You
so
finished the
he
sales
would.
one?
No, I actually didn't know. I still have like 10 minutes left, but I'm pretty much all the way done with that. But he was on a podcast this week that I like called The Diary of a CEO. It's a British guy who sold his company. And
Mm-hmm.
his podcast is really good. I like it, and he's got a bunch of good guests that come on there. But he had Alex on, I think maybe 1 or 2 years ago, and he had him back on, and he literally went for 3 hours. And so I listened to that
Wow.
kind of throughout the week. But it was good. It was just a lot of his takeaways that are never. It's never bad to hear them again for me. Basically.
Yeah.
And so it was. I don't think there was anything like brand new that I took away from that, but just kind of all of his things reinforced again. One thing I really like though, especially kind of timely for you and I, is that he spent probably 20 or 30 minutes just talking about hiring. And I really enjoyed that segment. And he was just talking about the importance of it, and we've touched on this, I think, a lot this year because it's kind of top of mind for both of us. But
Yeah.
they touched on some cool stories from Steve Jobs where like he just had a relentless focus on hiring and attracting these top talent people. And they shared like these stories. I don't remember the specifics, but like I do remember that they said that he would spend like 1 to 2 years working on just one person, like just trying to get one person to leave whatever role they were at to come work for Apple. And this is before Apple was successful. Now, like people probably want to work there. They probably get so many applications they can't even handle them. But
Yeah.
back in the day, when he's first building it, it's just like a startup company. And so he would just spend, like they said, like 1 to 2 years trying to find like this top talent. And one cool thing that they shared from Steve Jobs was that when you find like he said, when you find a group of A players, like let's say you find a group of 5 A players, for example, then that becomes exponential growth because those people, first of all, they all love working together because they're all A players. It's
Yeah.
like when you play pickup basketball, you got a great team together and you win every single game. Like that feeling. And it's just like, man, this is so much fun. Like I can't wait. Like you get all their numbers, like you want to go meet them again next week, and you just want to do it again and again and again. And so it's like same thing in business was what they were sharing is that when you find these 5 people, not only do they love working together, so that exponentially grows their results working as a team, but they're going to find other A players to join them. And so then it just becomes like this thing over and over and over that just continues to exponentially grow your business. And I was like, man, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff around hiring, but I would definitely recommend it just for that segment. And the nice thing about this guy is he does those like chapters and stuff. So you can just click on different like segments in the description. So that's nice.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
but yeah, so that was probably my favorite one I listened to this week. I also actually listened to one this morning by Hermosi, which I hadn't heard before. It was really good, and it was his rules of money. And he's got 42 of them, and so he just kind of listed them off one by one, and I really like them. So I actually wrote them all down. But yeah, there are a bunch of really good ones there. So I don't know if I could pick one out and share it because I'm looking at my notes here, but there's a lot of good ones here. But one of the things that he said that I think definitely applies to real estate is that returns are in the terms. He has a lot of these good quotes, but returns are in the terms, right? And so it's kind of like what Pace Morby always says, which is like, I'll give you your price, but you got to give me your terms. And so Alex is just kind of saying the same thing. And I think it's very applicable in real estate. Like if a seller wants a specific price, you can get creative with them and get it for them. Or, which is what his next thing was, is just to, I have to find exactly what he said, but just basically that like having leverage in negotiation just really all comes down to one thing. And there's all these negotiating courses and all this stuff, but it really just comes down to who needs the deal. And if you don't need the deal, you have the most leverage. And if you can tell a seller, for example, they want 100,000 and that's just way off, for example, and you can only offer them 50. And then let's say you offer them 50 and they're like, oh, I'll do 75. And you're like, no, I can do 50. A lot of times they're going
Yeah.
to come back to you. And I've noticed
Yeah.
it. I've noticed it, especially over the past 3 to 6 months. But a lot of times you just stay firm in your number and just nicely, no, I'm sorry. Like this is my offer is. They're going to come back
Yeah.
to you. They're going to come
It's
back to
just
you.
business. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was nice to hear some of these rules from him because it's just like the basic stuff. And you share about with Dan Coe and like it's kind of the same thing with Hermosi. Like they're just sharing all this stuff for free and it's just super valuable content. And it just really debunks a lot of these like gurus and courses that they try to sell you. And so that's my point that I'm trying to share, for anyone who's listening, because it's like negotiation is important. Yes, like you can learn skills that can help you persuade people and like reading books like you've recommended Cialdini and stuff. Like his books are great. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, it really just comes down to the simplest factor, which is like if you don't need the deal, you'll always be in the strongest position and you'll always get the best deal. And whoever needs the deal will always end up losing out. And so, yeah, I've definitely noticed that when I've been on the opposite side of the table, like when I'm really trying to sell a deal really fast, for example, to a buyer, a lot of times I'll miss out on $5,000, $10,000. But when I end up slowing down, I'm like maybe I have like 10, just another example, and then I'll wrap it up. But maybe you have like 10 deals on Dispo, right? In that case, when you get one offer coming in from a buyer on one deal, you're just like, okay, cool, thanks for the offer. Like, I'll get back to you. But let's say you have one deal on Dispo and you have no deals lined up to close, then you're like, oh my God, yes, I'll take your offer. Like, you're not even negotiating with them because you're like so hungry for that deal. So even
Yeah.
like he said something really good, but like even when you don't have necessarily that leverage, you can kind of falsify that, just borrow leverage from like your future self is one thing that he said. So just
Mhm.
put yourself in that mind frame, like, no, I have plenty of deals that are getting ready to close. I have plenty of opportunities to make money. Like, slow down and just don't rush to make. That's another thing he said. Mistakes love a rush decision. So
Mm.
he said any time in his life where he made a mistake, it was because he rushed a decision. And
Mhm.
I don't know if I've shared on the podcast, but that was probably my biggest struggle still to this day is selling deals too quickly. And every time I do that, it's a mistake because I'm rushing that decision. I'm selling deals too quickly. So that was a good one too. But anyways, I'll wrap it up there. But it was a lot of good ones. I think it was one of his most recent pods that he posted this week. So I'm sure you can find it. But it was just his rules of money, and I really enjoyed it. So
Yeah, that
um,
sounds great.
yeah, but and it also inspired me to try to do that on my own, like copy some of his, but try to make my own rules for money too that I can like follow and stuff. But for now, I just borrow his, so it's a good one.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, now that we have covered what's been inspiring us, let's dive into business check-in. So this could be how your business is performing, any lessons or wins that you had over the past week. You want to jump in on yours?
Sure. Yeah, I guess I'll start with wins. We had a couple sold. We had actually 3 properties sold this week, so that's nice. That's a
Awesome.
victory. Yeah, disposition's doing well. We've been able to build some contracts back up after sort of a lull, which I can go into as a pain point. But anyway, 3 sales. It's kind of like 2 sales because 2 of the properties were sold to one guy and packaged together, and they were both discounted quite a bit because they weren't great properties. So, but hey, it's a victory. 3 properties moved, and one of them's a good, our normal uh, price range that we want to get for properties, and that was a quick one too. We got that contract like a week ago, week and a half ago, and it sold. So it's always a victory. And then we got one contract this week that was a piece of vacant land. So all 3 of those sales were also vacant land. We do have some houses in our dispo right now, but we have, generally we have been doing more vacant land. So three sold, 3 vacant land sold, 1 under contract, and we didn't close any this week. We do have, I think, 1 more to close in February, maybe 2 if we get really lucky, and then we have some scheduled for March. So fingers crossed, knock on wood with that. Um, but yeah, the contract we got, I think, was pretty fast too. I was trying to look that up so I could run down if there's anything interesting about it. But I guess the only wrinkle with this one was that I can see looking at our Podio was that my acquisitions lead person was dealing with a son, and this guy, the father died intestate. So there's a woman who's on the title. She's the only one on the title, but she has 2 sons, and because their dad passed away and he didn't have a will, the 2 sons are entitled, by laws of succession or rules of succession in North Carolina. So we had to get all 3 of those to sign the contract, and then also agree to what the percentage split would be. And that did work out pretty easily. I mean, they just agreed to do 50, 25, 25, and so we should be able to do whatever we need to do with the title there because everybody's cooperative and on board. Uh, so I think that was the main wrinkle there. Otherwise, we got pretty good price on this one, and hopefully we can sell it and make a profit.
Ah, awesome.
Yeah, and I think as far as business goes, that's like the KPI rundown and a little bit about what the contracts were. I mean, if you're listening and you want more detail and as far as where leads come from and stuff, these are all SMS leads, I believe. I did a deep dive this week on lead sources and ROI and you know, performance and stuff. We could probably talk about that on another episode if people want to hear that. Let me see what other notes I made here about the business. Our biggest pain point, I've probably checked in about this previously, and Jasper, you just mentioned hiring, but that's been our biggest thing. Is just hiring somebody good, to do acquisitions for us so that we can ramp up our contracts and our closed deals and increase our profit. And we hired somebody last year and they didn't work out, so that set us back a little bit. And now we're trying to be really patient, and it's challenging to be patient, as you just mentioned. Like I could really easily just hire a couple of these people and try, but I've done that twice now. I've hired a couple of people in this role that have not performed and fudged their resumes or whatever the case may be, and it ends up setting us back because we're onboarding that person, we're paying them some money, we're training them some, and then they're not getting the results we need. So it's a missed opportunity cost plus cost out of pocket on that.
Mm.
So I'm trying to be patient with this process. We have been using somewhere.com and online jobs PH to source candidates, as well as Facebook groups, which my operations guy has been posting on there, and we've been getting a few candidates from there as well. But again, if you're interested in hiring and VAs, Jasper and I have quite a bit of experience at that. We've hired quite a few people and let quite a few people go too at the same time. So
Yeah,
we could do another pod probably just dedicated to that. Uh,
that
but
might be
yeah,
a good
that's
idea, actually.
yeah, just talking about hiring VAs and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's a pain point for a lot of people, or a developmental point. So, uh, yeah, I think that's pretty much what I have. Let's see. Well, so I just want to touch on this catch 22 because we try and give people real stuff and not just like fluff, like, hey, I cashed a check for this much money. So,
Yeah.
the pain point that, yeah, like you see a lot of people, hey, look at my, $20,000 check or whatever it is, but, or my Lamborghini. But, the pain point loop that we've been in for a while with growth has been lead generation and revenue, right? And like you did, you generate more leads to generate more revenue, but you need more revenue to pay for more lead generation generally, right?
Hmm.
And so, especially if we're trying to do direct mail or pay per click, which we've talked about, Jasper, like you said, the minimum you want to do for pay per click is like 4K a month and up from there. And then direct mail is very similar. You don't really want to be doing less than like 3 or 4 thousand pieces on a campaign, and those cost these days close to $1 a piece, right? They're like 70, 80 cents a piece. So you're looking at probably 3 grand to do a direct mail campaign. And if you want to ramp up direct mail, then you're spending money. And the end results are great, but you need to have the cash to do it. So SMS still remains the most cost effective channel, but that's not even cheap at our level because we're paying, I think our Smarter Contact, we have like an Elite Pro, whatever they call it, but I think we pay $1,700 a month for our 50,000 texts and this and that, all this
Yeah.
stuff that we have. And then we're paying for skip tracing, and we're using Skipify.ai right now as our primary. And they include prepaid skips and prepaid listings in that, but that's like $1,200 a month, I think. So there's 3 grand a month. And then, whatever else you're spending money on. So anyway, it's still the most cost effective channel, SMS, for us. So our current solution to get out of this bind is to hire the person like we talked about, but also to double down on SMS, because our ROI in the last year has been like 9x, as opposed to
Hmm.
cold calling, which is barely break even for us, which is terrible. But
Yeah.
might be a little bit above break even if we close a couple deals that are in escrow, but it's really bad. I didn't realize how bad it was until I really deep dived on it. So I know people are crushing it with cold calling, but it has not worked for us. So I still have the impression that sellers are really getting tired of people calling them, especially in hot markets, and that they're just
Hmm.
more wise to it, or they're hanging up faster, or they're on do not call lists, or they're, blocking your number, whatever they're doing. But I just think that's my impression. And I know, Jasper, you've talked to people who are doing really well with cold calling, but it seems like it's not that viable. And then our other like sort of guerrilla or low cost ways to get deals right now, while we're still trying to, get more cash reserves to ramp up in some of these other areas, is pay per lead, which we've talked about. Like you can pay 100, 150, $200 for a lead, and you can turn that on and off whenever you want to. And that's been pretty good so far, trying the propertyleads.com. Facebook, Jasper, you mentioned that you're doing, and you had some results with that. I was working on that this week, and that Meta ad manager interface is horrible in my experience. I just hate it. It's so difficult to work with, and like trying to filter people down into their interests and all that stuff. And then, you have to for real estate ads, you have to go on a different type of ad or different ad category because, there are rules and guidelines anyway. Challenging for me. But and then the other stuff is the real guerrilla stuff, right? Of like, what do we have already in our pipeline that we can go back and follow up on? Who are the people that, passed on an offer, but we were close, and those kinds of things. And then the other one that you've mentioned, Jasper, which is a great strategy of just like, hey, we've got buyers who want to buy. I've got a buyer who buys hundreds of lots a year in one county. I've got another buyer who buys, dozens of lots a year. Where are those guys wanting to buy? Let's go there. Let's find those deals. Let's do
Mm-hmm.
a targeted campaign in those areas. So those are sort of our guerrilla methods to do it on a low budget right now as we get to, break through the glass ceiling and get to our next tier of revenue and growth. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I've got. I just want to check in more in depth on that because, like I said, we're trying to give real life stuff, not fluff. So that's our challenge and what we're doing to work on it. And I'm definitely open to any feedback or thoughts you have on that too, Jasper.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I recently did that might be able to help you too is just export all of my leads that were not interested or follow-up leads, and I literally just put them in launch control and start a campaign to them. So these are just all leads in my CRM because at this point I have like 15,000 leads, and I didn't do any of the ones. So we have an internal in our Podio, just do not contact. So I obviously didn't do those, but everyone else I just exported them and just put them in launch control, and we got a good amount of leads this week from that. So that was pretty good. Um, and the other one that Matt Larson talks about, which, he also mentioned recently that I think he's stopping doing. But for me right now, I'm still doing it, which is just RVMing our existing leads, not any new leads, but just our existing leads. That's still working well for me. So I don't know if you guys are trying that, but that's been working well. Just doing that. I do that weekly. And that's just the people that we haven't been able to get a hold of. We just send them a RVM campaign. So that's been working pretty well too.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned that before, and I have not done that. And we have RVM capability in our SMS platform, and then I know we can. I'm pretty sure you've done a integration with your CRM, so you can easily do that. I'm sure we can do that. We
Yeah.
just have to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would try just a small sample size, like maybe 100 people or something. Just take like people that you haven't been able to get a hold of. That's what I do because for some reason people seem to call back when they get a voicemail, so that's nice.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens. So do you have a problem with a lot of well, you don't have wrong numbers because you're doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
We
just
had
people that are already in our system. So
these are already
yeah,
in the system. Yeah. When we
yeah,
were doing as a marketing strategy, we were getting a lot of people calling us back to tell us we had the wrong number.
yeah.
Like they're answering calls. Hey, that's the wrong number. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it's like
But
okay, you
yeah,
didn't tell me that. I guess it's nice though. You can remove them from your list, but yeah,
yeah.
that was
But
funny.
it's a lot of time picking up the phone and going, "Oh, thanks for telling me we had the wrong number. Appreciate it. You could have texted that."
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, some of them were landlines, but
But yeah, I would recommend that because also, like you said, with landlines, like we have the automated drips within our CRM, but that can't text the landline. So these RVMs, they can drop on
yeah,
landline and mobile, right? So then you're getting more people, I think, to call you back, especially some of our older demographic, which might not have a cell phone. So that's good. Um,
yeah. And that's a good point. And it reminds me of too, like people ask us which lists should I pull and which filters, but sometimes it's really good to try and, if you're trying to micro filter a list, go for the elderly people because a lot of those people are preparing for retirement or preparing for, getting their estate ready and just putting their affairs in order because they know they're at the end of their life and they want to make sure their family's taken care of. And so sometimes
mhm,
those people are good candidates for selling properties they don't need or they're tired of paying taxes on or things like that, especially with land. I find that's true.
definitely.
So
Yeah,
just a sidebar, it's a good list to pull or a good
yeah,
filter to use, get people over 60 or over 70, but you will get a lot of landlines. So you have to call those people or send them a piece of mail.
yeah.
Can't text them.
That's true.
All right, I think that's all I've got. Thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it. You want to
Yeah,
do your business?
yeah. Let me know if you. I mean, obviously you have it in Smarter Contact. I use Slide Broadcast, but you can just do it in Smarter Contact for RVMs if you
Yeah,
want
we
to try
just
it.
have to integrate Smarter Contact with Podio and do it that way.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll go into my business check-in. So far, it's been a great year. It's been a great month in February too. So the team
Awesome.
has just been cranking, and I credit a lot of that to our new transaction coordinator, who that's her main role right now. Hopefully, she's gonna take on more responsibility. But right now, we've just been getting so many contracts that I tried not to put more on her plate. I'm just trying to master transactions first. So but she's doing great, and so that's been a huge win for me. Like Duncan that we work with, he's awesome to work with, but she's taken over that role, just like coordinating appointments and stuff, which has been really nice for me because I don't like doing that. Even though I love talking to Duncan and stuff, I just don't like doing the coordination stuff. And
Oh, it's time
so
consuming too.
yeah, and just like all the rescheduling stuff, you know how it is. So it's nice to not have to do that. But anyways, he called me this week after one of the appointments, which he hasn't been doing anymore, because he's just talking to her. And he just called me just to compliment me on how well she's doing and how nice she is to him and how just he enjoys talking to her. And I was just like, man, like that felt so good. And I just got none of that with my last person who was in this role, just not even close. And so that just felt so good. And I just like when we're talking about hiring, it's just like, man, like I just wish I did this sooner. It's just like it's been a total night and day thing. And so it's definitely worth it to be patient, because one of the people that we've shared, offline, that you might hire, like I think she is a great person, and I don't think she would have been the perfect person for this role. I do think she's an
Yeah,
amazing talent, but she was the first person I interviewed. And after I got off the interview, I was like, should I just hire her? Like I was so excited because she's a great person. She's a great talent.
yeah,
And I'm really glad that I didn't do that. And I waited to interview a few more people, because this person I hired was the last person I interviewed after interviewing a few more people. And, she had experience before. So it really cut down on training time with transactions, which was fantastic. And she pretty
yeah,
much just came in and already was helping with transactions on day one. And now I think we're about 3.5 weeks in or something. And it's pretty much, I'm hands off of transactions, which I spent 6 months trying to be hands off of transactions and wasn't even close. And so now in
yeah.
less than 1 month,
And there,
yeah. So now in less than 1 month, I'm almost completely hands off transactions. Now, like I said, I do want to add more things on her plate, but just that alone is such a huge victory for me. Like it's been so nice to not deal with that stuff anymore. Like it's just been, I can't even explain how awesome it is. But I just hope everyone, has the ability to work with an A player like that, because and another thing Alex Ramosi shared, which was, very true, is that when you hire your first A player, you're like, man, this is awesome. But then like 2, 3 years later, you're like, man, they weren't even an A player, because then you hire a better A player, you know? And
yeah,
so like I'm so excited for that point to come, right? Because like I think I have a couple A players on my team now. I think I'm lucky to have them, but I just imagine like maybe in 1, 2, 3 years, who might like replace these people, or hopefully not replace, but like maybe just become a manager or something of these
yeah.
people, and maybe they're even a higher tier. And I'm like, wow, like that's just awesome, So yeah, that was another thing he talked about on that podcast. But anyways, I just wanted to share that because I was just so happy to get that call from Duncan, and it was just like so nice to have someone compliment your team. Like that's exactly what I want. Like for people to think that I have like a great team and like great people, because it's an extension of you. So it just feels good.
Yeah. And
So
for
that was
those listening, Duncan is Jasper's boots on the ground guy who does a lot of stuff,
for
contract
both of
signing.
us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he does I think he does more for you than he does for us. But yeah, he
Okay.
definitely
Yeah.
we take advantage of his services whenever we can because he's great. Great to work
Yeah.
with.
But yeah, so that was awesome. But anyways, I'll go into
Awesome.
KPIs and stuff. That was just probably like my biggest win this week. So for
Nice.
KPIs, it was a great week. Like I said, we got 6 contracts signed this week.
Wow.
One of those was me. So so far this month, I've gotten 2 contracts myself, which is a goal I set for myself for 2025, is just to actually like work more in my business as well as on the business, but work in the business more, because I think I've shared on the pod, but last year was a down year for us. I didn't like having that. And so I told myself, I'm just gonna, like we've shared, I'm not gonna play basketball. I'm just gonna lock in and focus on this until I can get it to a point where I'm happy with it. So doing that, like I said, I've got 2 contracts this month myself so far, which feels good. Last month I got 3 myself. And so obviously my team's crushing it too. We have 11 contracts, only 2 of those are mine. So I don't want to take away from them, but it just feels good to kind of get back in the trenches sometimes and lock up these deals myself. And I think it also leads to a little bit more camaraderie with the team when they see you like getting in the trenches and kind of locking up deals too. So they think like I'm not just like shouting at them from the coach's box or something. Like I'm actually down working with them. So that feels good too. It just feels like just overall we kind of more of a team this year so far, which feels good. And so yeah, but we got 6 contracts, sold 3 deals this week, and we didn't close any. We have a
That's
bunch of
great. Like
closings. Yeah, we have a bunch of closings
contracts
lined up.
pre-sold is great. What about your
Yeah,
closings?
thank you.
Sorry.
No, no, you're fine. Thank you. But yeah, we have a bunch of closings lined up for the last 2 weeks, so you know how that goes. It's
Yeah.
just like it's funny because we had like I think we have 7 deals that are supposed to close in February, right? But we also had 7 deals last week that were supposed to close in February. And it's like it just keeps getting pushed down the line. But anyways, trying to remain optimistic on those. But we've just been like getting hit in the face with title issues left and right. And so it's been a challenge, but it's also been a good, teaching experience for my new hire. So I'm kind of grateful for it because she's getting to see so many different scenarios just keep popping up. It's like whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
We talk about that, but yeah, so that's been good. I do think we have a chance to close all 7 this month. There's a chance. I think some of those will definitely spill into March, but either way, that was our team goal for this month was to close 7. So I'm really hoping we can get there because everyone gets a bonus and we're all striving for it. But yeah, so that's where the closings are at. We did have one this week that kind of we went through the full cycle of emotions on because we had this deal way back from October. We contracted it, had to go through a state process, and so February 12th was like the upset claims or something date or something. So we had to wait until that date after we went through the whole probate process. And so February 12th came and went and didn't have any upset bids, so that was a win. And then after that, I like pitched it back to the closing attorney. I was like, okay, how soon can we close? Like the sellers are ready to close right now. And they're like, oh, we didn't even start title. I was like, oh, nice. So you had it for 4 months and didn't start title. And so that was awesome. And another reason why we switched to a
Yeah.
new attorney. But anyways, that was a lot of fun to hear that. But then of course there were a bunch of title issues that popped up right after 4 months. And so then I just thought this deal was completely dead. And I was like, okay, because it's a 3 package deal, right? And so two of the properties, the issue was, you're probably very familiar with this, but the issue was there's no deeded access to this property. And so they would have to, I've never actually dealt with this exact scenario, but they would have to like file a case with the county because technically you can't do that. Like you can't have a property where there's no deeded access to it. So someone along the line messed up and didn't record an easement to this property.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I won't go into the rabbit hole, but there was title issues with 2 of these properties because of that main issue. And so then the buyer was like, okay, well, I'll just buy this other one and we can just figure this out. And I was like, okay. And so I pitched that to the seller and he like got super mad at me. He was like, no, like that was not our deal. Like we're selling all 3. And I was like, dude, I mean, it's not like our fault. There's title issues on your property. And it's because of they inherited from their father. And I was like, it's because he actually did his own deeds. That was the issue. His father did his own deeds. He didn't hire an attorney to do it. So he messed up the whole thing. So, that was kind of funny. But anyways, and so then the kudos to this buyer because he worked with me to pitch a creative situation to them. And I don't do creative deals, so he had to like spell it out for me in very plain English. And anyways, he agreed to basically give a higher price for the one parcel that doesn't have title issues because he's trying to get a loan for these, to fix and flip them. And so he agreed to give a higher price on the one house with, clear title and then finance the other 2 while he tries to figure out these title issues, possibly file a court case with the county, all this stuff. And so I was like, that sounds like a great, solution to me. And so I take that back to the brothers and he was like totally rejected me at first. And then I was like, okay, well, that's kind of what it is. I kind of did the Hermosi thing. It's like take it or leave it. Because at this point I thought the deal was dead anyways.
Yeah,
And so
they're
then he
probably not
called,
doing a deal with anybody else. Yeah.
yeah, because you can't because there's these title issues. Anyways, and so he calls me back later that day. He's like, okay, like I'll do it. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so I thought the deal was already dead. And then sent him the contract, and then there's another issue pops up because he's like, well, no, I need $10,000 more because I just got a judgment against me for 10,000, and so I'm losing 10,000 of this money anyways. Because I guess when you get a judgment, like they just take money from your bank or something. I don't know. That sounds crazy to
Well,
me,
if it's on
but
the property, it gets taken out of the sale proceeds of the property.
yeah. Yeah, so I guess they put a judgment on him, and so basically 10,000 off the top, he's losing anyway. Since he was like, "I need 10,000 more at closing," I was like, "Dude, you just agreed to me," and I already told the buyer. And so anyways, the buyer, in his credit, he was like, "Okay, like I'll do it." And so we reduced the financing amount by 10 and increased the initial purchase price amount by 10, and we got it signed. And so we will see. We're hoping to close on the 28th, the end of this month, but that was kind of fun. It was kind of cool to see that whole deal progress. But I hope
Yeah,
we can
it's
get it
great.
closed And yeah, these are three brothers living in Missouri who inherited this property in North Carolina, Franklin County. And it's been quite the experience dealing with these guys. They're really funny guys. But it's
Another
fun
testament
overall.
to
It's
out of state sellers, though. Like if you're pulling
yeah,
lists, out of state sellers, elderly, those are always good filters.
for sure. That's a good point too, because something that I don't do, but I know you've been working on with REI SIP is like list stacking. And if this was a lead that was lit, like this is a perfect lead, not only are they out of state, they inherited this property. Not only did they out of state and inherit this property, it had to go through probate. There's three right there. And
Yeah,
what's another one? I mean, they had
they're
equity.
probably
There's
elderly,
four.
probably
And then
over.
they're elderly, they're tax
Yeah,
delinquent, there's a lien on the property or title issues on the property. So there's like 6 or 7 motivation factors here. So if
yeah.
this was like one of those list stacking, like it's a perfect lead. And we actually got this from pay per lead from a company called motivatedsellers.com. So never did I know it'd be this complicated when it came in, but kudos to them, I guess, for finding this lead and passing it along to us. So that's kind of a win. But yeah, that's my biggest story of this week. That was quite an interesting deal. But
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I mean I think that's about it. I could share more stories and stuff, but that's kind of that was the main action this week, I think.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a bummer about the attorney not pulling title. We had an estate one too, but the attorney, I mean, part of why went into estate is because our closing attorney pulled title and was like, "Oh, you're going to need to do an estate on this." And then we went to
Yeah,
the
they pulled initial title right to find that, but I thought they pulled all the title, but they didn't. And so yeah. I guess when they found the estate, they're just like, okay, we'll kick it to the estate attorney and I'll just forget about it. I was like, okay,
yeah, and
cool.
some people are
So
lazy that way and just were like, yeah, and I get it. Like they might be thinking, "Hey, this might never close. We don't want to waste our
right.
time on this," you know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, so that's right. I mean, I do understand that side of things. If I was an attorney, I would probably just file those deals off as never going to close because sometimes they don't,
yeah,
sometimes they never do.
yeah.
And so, so I guess it does make sense. But that's another win that we had this week. Is I think I shared it last week actually. But my transaction coordinator found us a new attorneys who reached out to a handful of them, and we've already sent them a couple of files this week, and they are just seeing much better so far. So I'm excited to hopefully have smoother, faster closings with these people. So
The
yeah,
rosy glow of the new attorney.
I know. We'll see,
Shiny. It's like the
but
shiny object syndrome. It's like, oh, this attorney's way better.
yeah,
Maybe they will be. I'm not trying to be cynical. Maybe they will be.
yeah. But yeah, we have like a top three now, so we're sending a few files to these people. If not, we're sending a few files to the next number two option. So we have three that we're going to try to experiment with. But yeah, we'll see. I think it'll be better, but we'll see.
Yeah, we're trying a new one also. Well, we're closing one deal with this attorney, and we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes.
Um, so yeah, I
We've
guess
talked
that's
a lot
about
about
it.
attorneys in past episodes, but once you start closing a lot of deals, you really want a good attorney because it can really make or break deals. It can actually make or break deals. It could be the difference between closing and not closing, or also just creating a lot of headaches or more
Literally.
work for you. If you don't have an attorney who's willing to step up and get shit done. Pardon my
Yeah.
French, get stuff done.
Yeah. Great point. Great point. So I guess I mean if anyone's interested, we could do a segment maybe on the next show about like some questions and stuff that you want to ask attorney to vet them or something. If you want us to touch on that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess the last thing I'll share because I like that you shared that was where the deals came from this week. So we got three from SMS. We got one for cold calling, actually, funny enough, and then one from paper lead and one from referral. So they're actually very spread out this week. Typically, they're
Nice.
mostly SMS. But yeah, so the cold call lead again, I canceled that in December, but this was from like a while back. I don't remember exactly when, but sometime last year we got this lead and follow up, follow up, follow up. We finally got them under
Yeah.
contract. And then paper lead, self-explanatory there. That was from motivatedsellers.com again. So they seem to be the best for me for paper lead, but I'm also
Yeah.
using propertyleads.com. So still kind of split testing those. And then yeah, I got lucky with this referral. I guess it's credit to me posting on Facebook and stuff more consistently. But yeah, this person just sent me this deal and it was a good one. So I was able to contract that one.
Nice. So then you're just paying a referral fee on that?
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully we'll close that this month and yeah, hopefully pay him a nice referral fee and maybe get more deals. So that's awesome. But
Cool.
yeah, so now
Did
that
you
we have,
advertise your referral fee, or did you let him propose it, or how did you do that?
no, I just like in most of my posts these days, I just put like at the bottom like PS if you have any deals in North Carolina, like just shoot me a DM or something. And so I try to do that like maybe not every day because people will probably get annoyed, but I try to do that like every other day, at least a couple times a week, just let people
Yeah.
know. Um, and so yeah, no, I didn't necessarily advertise it to him. He just reached out to me, and he's a realtor, so I think I'll probably just pay him like a full commission amount. That'd probably be a
Yeah,
good way to
3%.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so because technically like he didn't have to go through the full process, but I'll still give him a full commission. I think that seems fair. So that's what I'm thinking about doing.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's generous because, like you said, he doesn't have to do as much work as normal. He just referred it to you. So,
yeah, he just sent me the lead. So yeah, so
okay.
I think that's fair. I want to make sure that it's something that's like we've talked about that he's excited about, so I can hopefully do more deals with him. So that's
Yeah,
what I'm thinking about.
cool.
Yeah.
It's a good week.
Yeah. So, thanks for listening to my check-in. And now that we have both looked at our deals and numbers, let's shift the gears to tools and tips or anything like that you want to share this week, or do you want to skip that segment? Like any tools that stick out to you this week?
I don't think there's anything major. We're still working out the kinks with Just Call, which is the everyday business phone system. So we're working on a couple of workflows, like a couple of the follow-up sequence things are still getting ironed out. But overall, I'd say Just Call is really good, and I'm excited to try out some of the AI features. It already has AI features that it's kind of funny. Like if I'm sending a text in Just Call, AI will say as I'm typing the text, "Your tone sounds professional. Would you like suggestions?" Or "Your tone sounds this," or
That's
you know,
cool.
and it starts to suggest stuff, which is also I think really good for people on our team who English is not their first language. Like they can have AI sort of tweak their messages a little bit.
Hmm.
um, I ignore it when it talks to me, but it's kind of funny that it's there. And then we
Yeah.
still have the potential to set up the AI receptionist, which we're talking about doing, as we talked about on the previous episode, just like that you do get a lot of sellers who want to talk after hours. So if we don't right away have a person, at least we can have an AI assistant answering the phone and, maybe answering a couple basic questions and then forwarding to a voicemail kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to trying that out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then otherwise, I don't. There's not really any new tools that we're using. You mentioned the property, the paper lead, propertyleads.com has been good for us. I'd recommend that if you want to just, paper lead situation where you can turn on or off your, you can pause at any time, but you can get leads coming in. And they've been really good about canceling the leads that we have told them were not good leads and refunding our money. So that's been a good experience so far. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else with tools off the top of my head right now.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. I'm excited to hear about your journey with Just Call. And
Yeah.
yeah, see how that goes for you guys. But yeah, I like those AI features. I've noticed that even just the iPhone now is doing that, which is cool. Like when you get a text message, Gmail already has been doing that for years, but now iPhone, when you get a text message, it automatically gives you replies that you could just click, which is kind of interesting. I
Mhm.
don't know if you noticed that, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So it's cool
And
to
Just
have
Call, I
just
think I mentioned this too. Just Call has you can do a pre-filled SMS signature, which is really nice because now whenever I reply to somebody, it says Mark Cole, CEO, my business, all that stuff right there. So it makes it
uh,
look like a business card, which I've always done. I manually do it. And now you just basically are sending a business card every time you're sending a text to somebody, which
mhm.
you're top of mind, put your business name top of mind, makes you look professional, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah, that's awesome. Definitely. Um, Well, yeah, I think the only one that I wanted to share this week was just investor base because I think I teased this a few weeks ago, but when I was on that demo call, they were teasing some cool features and now they're live. So if anyone hasn't checked those out, it's really cool. The new feature that I'm mentioning that I really like is what's called there's two things. One is called investor comps, and then the other one is just giving you an average buy price for both flippers and landlords when you plug in an address. So that's really cool. Just kind of helps you further, solidify your numbers when you're comping properties. And
Yeah.
so I've actually been using that a lot this week. Just like I'll run my numbers first, and then I'm kind of cross referencing with investor base before I give my team like, okay, this is our max offer that we can do on this one. So Yeah, I've been really liking that. That's saving me time and just making me feel more confident with my numbers. So if anyone hasn't checked it out, I'm sure we can drop a link in the description if you want to check out Investor Base. But yeah, it's definitely worth the cost for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a game changer as far as really pricing your properties, especially, I mean, for houses, not so much for land, but
yeah,
really good. We actually got a price reduction based on that this week, and we probably should have looked at it before we made our offer, but we got a house under contract, and then the feedback. Actually, we sent this one to you for JV Jasper. The feedback was all like the price was lower than where we had it, and so we got really good feedback from you and from our own buyers. But then our dispo guy went into investor base and was like, "Oh, here's what flippers are actually paying here." Which I need to talk to acquisitions and say, "Hey, check this out before you before you make
yeah,
offers on houses." I thought we were doing that, but I just need to double check it. Anyway,
yeah.
using investor base to see what actually flippers are paying was in line with what the type of offers we were getting, and we were able to go back and get a substantial price reduction from the seller on that one. So that's just another validation of what you're saying already, that they just have really good data, really nice database of buyers, both flippers and landlords, and it really helps with comping and with connecting with quality buyers. So I
Hmm.
double down on your shout out.
Yeah, for sure. Um, well, awesome. Well, now that we've shared our tools and tips, typically we'll use this segment to go over any questions or comments. I don't think we have any this week. Do you want to just double check real quick or think we're good?
Yeah, I'll check. I can get there quickly. Let's see. You navigated me to the community page before, and now I don't remember how to get there. Google your channel.
I think it's on the left-hand side if you're in your channel page.
Yeah, man.
But
I
either
think, yeah,
way, I don't know if
yeah.
we have any comments this week,
I don't
but
think we had any comments this week, unfortunately.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if not, we'll get to them, or if there were, we'll get to them on our next episode next week. So definitely tune in for that. And thank you to everyone who's left comments in the past. It's really fun for us to go over those. But if this is your first time listening, feel free to drop a comment or question, and we'll make sure to get it on our next episode.
We
And
got. Did we
oh,
answer that? I got two from 6 days ago.
okay,
That's since the last episode, right?
yeah, I think it's last Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Or Monday, maybe.
Thanks.
I'm
This is
sorry.
great. After two positive responses, do you call them or do you keep texting from CRM? Also, Mark, how do you determine qualified leads and what is the process to either text or get them on the phone once determined qualified? I guess this is a response to our SMS episode. Sorry, I didn't realize we had these in here.
Oh, nice.
Uh,
Okay. Do you want to
so
answer
yeah,
first because
so
he asked you?
the question is, after two positive responses, do you call them? And this is something you mentioned, Jasper. You wait for two positive responses, so that's a question for
Mhm.
you. And then, or do you keep texting from the CRM? Also, Mark, how do you determine qualified leads? So he's asking me to answer the question you already answered, basically. And what's the process to either text or get them on the phone once determined qualified? So it's the same thing.
Okay.
And how many texts can each agent handle per day? Well, that's a good question too. Um, so yeah, I'll jump in and then you can jump in too. So Jasper already mentioned that he looks for two positive responses. We're the same way. We just want to make sure people are engaged with us. So, and normally the way we test that is, would you mind answering a couple of questions about the property? And then
Hmm.
if they say no, then we'll just say, okay, great. Does it have, if it's land, does it have well and septic, or is it water and sewer or whatever? Just a few basic questions just to test their responsiveness. And then if they're
Yeah.
get back to you and say like, oh yeah, here's the answers to that, or I don't have the answers, but I'll get back to you right away. Then we'll probably get them on the phone. So it's very similar to Jasper. You get an initial response that's sort of a warm response of like, yeah, I might sell, and then you just go a little bit deeper. Oh, cool. We'll ask either, what kind of price are you looking for? Do you have a ballpark? Or we'll ask,
Hmm.
would you mind asking a couple questions about the property so we can get you the best price, that kind of thing, and then follow up with a phone call once we get a positive response there, and then the second part of the question. So yeah, I guess the answer for me is get them on the phone as soon as you can, right? We've already talked about this. The sooner you talk to somebody who's motivated, the sooner better chances you have of getting a deal. And how many texts can each agent handle per day? I think this depends on what your response rate is, really, because you could send out 5,000 texts and get a 1% response rate, or you could send out 2,000 texts with a 10 or 15% response rate. So it's really the responses and not how many texts you can send. So how many, I guess the way I would frame it is how many responses can each agent do per day. And right now we've had a low response rate. We've been like around 6%, which has not been great. But that's, again, like Jasper mentioned, a combination of follow-up and fresh campaigns. But if you're at
Mhm.
6% and you're sending 1,000, then you're getting what, 60 people you're talking to, right?
Mhm.
So that means you could probably send 3,000 and talk to 180 people. So right now we're with that response rate, we're sending, we're in that 2,500 to 3,000 range of SMS per day. We're going to push that up a little bit more and see if we can do a little bit more than that, maybe 4,000. But if our response rate goes up, then the number of texts we send would go down. So
Yeah.
anything on top of that, Jasper, on that question?
No, no, great answers. It's pretty much exactly the same for me. So the first question was, after two positive response, are you pushing the CRM? Right. That's pretty much.
After two positive responses, do you call them or do you keep
Okay.
texting from the CRM?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So pretty much exactly what you said. Like that's what we're looking for. Two positive responses. As soon as they have that, we'll push them to CRM and try to call them ASAP. And then if they don't answer, then we'll still have our sales team be the ones texting them from there. So basically, we want to move it away from launch control and into our CRM as quickly as possible. Once we confirm, like you said, that they're actually, first of all, legitimate sellers, because sometimes via text you get scammers, and then second of all, they actually want to talk to us. So yeah, we definitely want to call them ASAP. And then if, like I said, if they do need to be texted further, then we will do that. We want our sales team, take control of that. And then
Yeah.
what was the second part?
How many SMS are you doing per day? And I think you're doing a whole lot more than I am per agent. So it's like what? Because yeah, I think you're at like 8,000 texts per day per agent. Is that right?
Yeah, we send out, I think it's 8,500 or 8,750, somewhere between there. I think that's the per day that we send out Monday through Saturday. And
And
so
that's
right now
per
it's
agent.
no, that's just in total between both of our accounts
Okay.
combined. And so that's the amount that we send out per day. Right now, I have two agents that manage that. So that kind of answers the question. But between our response rate, I would have to pull up my calculator. But since our response rate is about 8%, let's just say, for example, my response rate was 10, so I can do easy math. Then that would mean we're getting 875 replies, right? After out of 8,750. So that, what does that break down to over 8 hours? About 100 replies per hour, essentially, if you were to break it down. And so
Yeah.
divide that by two, and both my guys are handling roughly 50 replies per hour. So that's kind of what it comes down to. So I would say
That's a
one
lot of
person,
replies. I mean, that's a lot. If you get into a conversation with somebody, that's
yeah,
pretty efficient.
yeah. I mean, I would say, obviously, if let's say we're just breaking that down, it's 100 replies per hour, and let's say out of those, probably only 10% of those are interested, right? Probably most of them are not interested. And so when
Yeah.
they're not interested, we're just quickly filtering them either by, like, if they're totally, stop, don't text us, then we just put them in DNC. We don't bother with them anymore. But if
Yeah.
maybe it's like, no, not right now, then we'll send them one more follow-up text, which is basically something along the lines of, okay, should we check back in a month or two? That's kind of what we typically send them. And then
Right.
from there, they're either saying yes or no. They say yes, put them in a 1 month follow-up. They say no, put them in a longer, like 3 month follow-up, and they'll get texted at that point. So yeah, I would say, if we're getting 100 replies per hour guesstimate, then probably, what would you say? Like half of those are even like interested after that. And then probably even half of those are actually having conversation. So I wouldn't say it's 100 conversations. It's like 100 replies. So that's why I think it's definitely manageable with one or two people. If that's all they're doing, that's their full-time job. I think one or two people can manage that many for sure. So
Right. And the other thing to consider if you're not super familiar with these platforms is that you can populate your platform with pre-written responses. So these
mhm.
people are not even typing out a response; they're just clicking
Yeah,
from
yeah,
a menu of pre-made responses. So a lot of it's very simple. You see the seller's message, and then you know which one it's going to be a response, and then you kind of, I think you just go down the line and you hit the first response, and then you refresh and you see who's responded to that one, and then you go down again.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it can be very systematic once you get the hang of it. I've done some of it. I haven't done it in a while, but you can get into a role. So yeah, so good answer. We had one other one here too. Let's see. I open this tab back or
Just
flip
while you're
back to
pulling
this.
it up, that's a great point that you just made. And that's why SMS is so nice as opposed to cold calling, in my opinion, because it's very systematic and templatized. And so your people can literally just click a button for everything. It's just like when you cold call someone, there's only 6 responses you're going to get as a cold call. And it's very similar via text. There's only so many replies. So we have a button for every single reply, pretty much. Like 99% of replies we have a button for. So that's a
Yeah.
great point. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot, and I for me, I tell my guy who manages the SMS, just like, if somebody does engage them, take all the time you need to really engage them because they are so few and far between, the people who are really serious, that when you get somebody sort of on the hook, you wanna really get just laser in and focus on them and make sure that you follow until they get pushed or until
Hmm.
they fall off. But so there's like a bip, 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 go, 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 and then all of a sudden you get one and you got to like dial in and really engage that person and
100%. Yeah.
do your best. Yeah. So actually, I think that was it. It was a two-part question because for some reason it categorized my response to that as another comment. So that's
Okay.
all we got.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the question and comments. Appreciate it, everyone. And
Yeah.
like I said, if you do have anything else you want us to touch on in future episodes, whether it could be a segment or just a simple question or anything, feel free to drop it below. And with that, we're pretty much wrapping up. So do you have any quote or anything that you want to leave the listeners with?
Hmm. I didn't prepare anything. I don't know if I have anything off the top of my head.
That's okay. I had a bunch of good notes, like I said, from that podcast from Alex Ramosi. And one of the ones that's right in front of me that I like that he shared that I'll leave everyone with is that he says that peace of mind can be bought. And so I really like that he said that because basically he was saying it in terms of kind of a money sense, financial sense, where one thing he says that a lot of people I haven't heard from other people is that you can buy insurance on anything. You can even buy insurance on an employee. Basically, insurance companies are happy to take your money. But what he said is like very, tactical is that if you are worrying about something and you don't have that peace of mind, you can take out an insurance policy to fill that. But at the same time, you can think of that in a not so tactical way where if you're not having peace of mind within your business in a specific area, you could pay for an employee to do that task, and now all of a sudden you have peace of mind in that area. So I really like that quote, and I think you could take that a lot of different directions. But I think we'll just
Yeah.
that's the one that I like to leave people with. So thanks again, everyone, for listening this far. If you made it this far, and drop some questions, comments for the next one, and we'll see you next time.
Like, subscribe, all that stuff.
Yeah.